Oh, hey, is this thing on? Is it live? Are we live? I think we're live. I think we're live. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. So, all the buzz, all the hubbub, all the about whatever Dodge is going to come out with as an EV. Guys, look, I understand EVs are the hottest, newest, latest, most neatest, oest of trends right now. And I get that they are the one trick pony that everybody is falling in love with in terms of the acceleration and the driving experience and everything that seems to come with that. But I got to tell you something, guys. I'm a little bit sick of it. I'm a little bit tired of everybody jumping on this bandwagon going, what will the new insert stupid name here? Is it going to be the Tomahawk? I got thoughts on that name, by the way. Is it going to be the new Tomahawk? Is it going to be the new CUDA? Because that's the other name that's getting rattled around left and right. Are they just going to call it the car? And nobody really knows. And the fact of the matter is that whatever anybody is saying is straight up speculation. Now, yes, I've seen the renderings, and yes, I get it. It looks neato because it looks like a video game car. But the fact of the matter is that the car is not going to look anything like what you've seen so far. If it looks anything like what you've seen so far at all, it will at least be in general shape. But trust me when I tell you that it's not going to be that really cool looking rendering. It never is. But let's move past that. The fact of the matter is that everybody's jumping on board wanting to talk about it, which I guess is kind of me right now because I'm sort of doing the same thing. But I got a little bit different take on it. See, my thoughts are, well, they're pretty much in line with what a lot of these internal combustion engine guys are saying, but I don't really see it from their point of view. So let me walk you through this. First of all, we are at the limit of what 93 octane can functionally give you in terms of actual power based on the weight of the vehicle, which is load, creates cylinder pressure, based on the amount of power, based on the displacements, and based on the rules that we got to follow. 93 octane just ain't going to get you to the promised land. You can move up to E85 or E90 or any other exotic type of fuel that you want to. Fact of the matter is that we are at the functional limit of what manufacturers can actually cobble together and throw out into the world, still be somewhat sane when it comes to emissions compliance, and give you a lot of horsepower. It's just the fact of the matter. Guys, cars weigh a lot. They got to have a lot of power to get them moving, and a lot of power to get a lot of weight moving means a lot of emissions. So how else can you do it? Well, hybrids and electrics. Well, the thing is that we've been basically sold a bill of goods. It's hot in here. We have been sold a bill of goods based around the EV. Now, and this will be dating the video, but sometime, what is it, the 17th of, what was it, July, August, whatever it is, the Dream Cruise, Woodward Avenue, Roadkill Live, Roadkill Nights, whatever it is, that Dodge is piggybacking this off of, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. We're going to get 3 days worth of teasers. You know how much fun it is to get teased. I got some round things that turn a certain color of azure in that respect. But the fact of the matter is that all it's going to be is a tease. There's not going to be any type of actual functional vehicle, or if there is, I'll be shocked at this event. Of course, my thoughts on introducing an EV at the Woodward Dream Cruise, or at least what would be the intro, the beginning of the Woodward Dream Cruise, where people bring in their vintage automobiles that they've spent a fortune, not only in money and time getting put together for this event, but in essence, telling them that technology is obsolete and here's the new, neatest, latest, and greatest thing. But is it really? Is that EV? There's a mosquito in here that's going straight to hell once I get my hands on it. There is an EV out there that they're wanting to showcase. But the fact of the matter is that they're talking about hybrids. And that I found to be really weird. We're being told that this EV is coming. So everybody's all slathered and lathered about this EV that's supposed to take out the Tesla Plaid, even though the coupe could be coming. But it's supposed to take out the Tesla Plaid, or at least they hope that it will. You better keep hoping, by the way. And all these, well, it could be 1,200 horsepower and it could be 800 horsepower. By the way, at last count, the number was 858 horsepower for that Stellantis STLA large platform, but I'm sure it can muster up more if needs be. But the reality is that they show up yammering on about some hybrid technology. What would your thoughts be on that? Because again, we're going to keep supplementing internal combustion with hybrid technology. Hybrid technology is neat, but it adds weight. And for it to be a significant bump in power, it's got to be a hell of a lot more than that glorified alternator that they rolled out there with Ram trucks calling it e-torque, when it really doesn't add any horsepower. As a matter of fact, the fact that that thing is on that truck is a little bit weird when you think about it, because everybody else is expecting that thing to be a horsepower adder, when in essence, it's just basically there to get you rolling off idle and to kind of supplement some in-between gear smoothness. That's not a performance gain. In fact, I don't know of anybody that's gained anything at the track or on the street because they had the e-torque. Most guys don't even know that they have it when they buy it. They don't even know what it means. Believe me, I've asked around. I've been discovering this on my little journey in buying, or at least trying to buy, or really trying to order my Ram, which may be another 3 to 4 weeks away before I can even put an order in. We can chat about that later. But the fact is, talking specifically about these EVs, hybrids, or whatever the case is, it's going to be showcased. The problem that I'm seeing right now is that there's no marketing hype behind any of these cars aside from that thing that we got, that teaser or whatever it was way back in. Do you even remember when that was? This is about the time that Direct Connection was put out there for the world to consume, or at least consume the idea that there could maybe possibly be a Direct Connection, could be in the future, but we really don't know. And right now, the whole program has been put on hold unless you want to buy a drive shaft or maybe some other hard parts. So where's all the hype with the hybrid? Are they really going to roll out a potential 600-700 horsepower hybrid variant of the Scat Pack? Sounds pretty cool. Maybe until you realize the thing weighs as much as a Hellcat or more if they're running a decent enough size battery pack on the thing. And if it's only there as a supplemental horsepower system, well, that's great. But again, the weight penalty starts to get me a little bit confused. And what about traction and traction control and everything else is going to come with this thing? All-wheel drive, ? Yeah, probably not. But maybe. I've been proven wrong, and I'm wrong more than I'm right in some of these cases. Let's hope that I'm wrong in this. But what it is probably going to be is an integrated electric motor in the transmission, and that would be your supplemental torque source. Think of it like an extra kick in the pants for the engine. And in this case, you'd be looking at something around 100 horsepower and maybe 200 foot-pounds of torque, or 150 horsepower and 200 foot-pounds of torque added. But keep in mind that that system, again, is heavy. And so is the battery pack that's needed to make that whole thing work together. And if it's done that way, yeah, you get a lot of power, but a lot of weight and a lot of traction problems unless you're on a dedicated, soft, cushy little drag race tire back there. But again, that wasn't what we were sold. We were sold on an EV. And we can talk about how hybrids could be neat, cool, innovative, or whatever. But I'd like to remind everybody of something. Hybrids have been out for forever. And since they've been out forever, Dodge doesn't have anything in their performance lineup that would even remotely be able to take advantage of hybrid technology. They are not only late to the party, they are last to the party, at least in hybrid vehicles, at least so far as I can tell. And since the marketing is leaning heavily towards the EV and all the power that it could potentially promise to bring to the table, I can only imagine that having to introduce a hybrid, and I mean a true hybrid, is almost going to be like a kick in the stomach to everybody over at Dodge, especially when you think about the fact that not only are they late to the party, they're the last to the party. And well, if they're talking about the hybrid, and if we're talking about the EV, well, everybody's already there. In fact, the party's already in full swing. Bottles are starting to have to get swapped out. The kegs are just about to float. but we still got plenty on tap ready to go. But when you think of it from that point of view, what are they really going to be able to offer up? 7, 8, 900 horsepower? That doesn't work in this economy anymore. And when I say economy, I'm talking about the power economy. And in this case, it's flat out acceleration, which is supposed to be Dodge's forte. But the issue isn't that Dodge isn't coming to the party with something, is that they've come to the party with nothing and now have only shown up, at least in this case, will be showing up with nothing but promises. My hope, and I've said this before, that they show up to the party with something and they line up a Tesla Plaid and they go blasting down Woodward Avenue and basically just a freak show of what can come and what can be. But if they did show up with anything, it would have to be an EV, because a hybrid would get smoked in that regard. So where does that leave you guys? Are y'all interested in any of this? Does any of this stuff even remotely interest you whatsoever? Let's say you've got a Scat Pack or a Hellcat. Would you even be contemplating getting rid of that car for a hybrid version of whatever it is that you have? Because remember, that big electric motor can be integrated, I should say, into whatever transmission that you have. So if you got a Scat Pack, bump it up 150 horsepower, 200 pound-feet of torque, do the same to a Hellcat. Now all of a sudden we're talking some pretty serious numbers. But what cost would that bring? And this is something else. Again, we're not talking about these cars' costs yet. I mean, we can't really talk about these cars in a vacuum because they do cost money. And believe me when I tell you, as somebody who is actively trying to order a truck, it is nuts what kind of pricing is running around out there. So I can only imagine what it's going to look like, the landscape in terms of pricing anyway, when we're talking about EVs and hybrids from the pricing that we're at now. I'll give you an example real quick. Let's say you're walking into your local friendly Dodge dealership and you want to get yourself a Scatty. That's going to drop you down about $45,000 to $47,000 ish for going off the sticker. Now try to imagine having to add $5,000 to $7,000 to that number for your hybrid package. Is it really worth it at that point? I mean, $5,000 to $7,000 for 150 horsepower. Well, that's a lot less than what you'd spend on a supercharger, right? So in that case, not too bad. But that's assuming you would only have to drop $5,000 to $7,000. Chances are you're looking at more like 10 to 12. And again, in the economy that we're living in, it seems like that would be the going rate. So everything gets a bump in about 10 grand at least. And yeah, the cars run really, really well. But again, you've gone up and went broke to try to come up with the funds to cover the nut on that thing. Then you look at the Hellcat variants. Well, now you're almost at $100,000 for, well, actually considerably more than $100,000 for any of the hybrid variants of anything supercharged, save for maybe the Hellcats, which would now go from 72 to 74 grand to basically somewhere just south of where a Red Eye is, or just north of where a Red Eye is, depending on your location. See what I mean? We're not left with a lot to play with. And the other issue that I have here is, well, because we've not seen any marketing talking about any hybrid cars that they might be coming out with, no teasers there. And the assumption with the hybrids is they would land before the EV does. And it only seems like the EV is floating around out there in one video with one marketing push. It's almost like we're dealing with reactionary management now. Oh, yes, we're going to start talking about hybrids as a performance option. And then on the 7th, that'll be on the 16th. And then on the 17th, yeah, that's when we'll talk about that EV. Well, wait a minute. I don't want to hear anybody yammering about it. Where are the videos? Where's the rock and roll? Where's the tire smoke? Where is the lean, mean green team? What about that? Can we bring up something? Dodge, are you listening? I'm throwing out some verbiage gold, son, and you're not picking up what I'm putting down. A lot of the purists might be okay with hybrid technology. I mean, at least it's a gateway to get them into the fully electric vehicles. And of course, we all know what kind of one-trick pony those have turned out to be. But the reality is that because nobody's heard, seen, or even thought about a hybrid Challenger, Charger, start picking anything that's got a V8. Since nobody's really thought of that, the only attempt that you've had is this real weak e-torque thing, which again, nobody really understands, and trying to explain to them that it's, well, you get the picture. So I'd like to hit y'all's thoughts on this. I mean, I'm putting this out there for you guys, but what do you think? Do you think it's even worth it? Do you think it's even worth talking about hybrid technology? And especially at this stage of the game. And really, when you think about it, another way to look at it is, does Dodge have any competition in all of this? It's kind of hard for me to put this into perspective, but, Ford, really, I haven't heard any grumblings about a true hybrid Mustang yet. And for everything that it's worth in terms of, the push and the drive and trying to get some kind of an EV coming from anybody, you would think Ford would be the first to the plate. And they kind of were with their Mustang EV, but that thing does exist and it's out there running around and it runs pretty good. And now we've got the Lightning, which has already shown the TRX a set of taillights that it never saw coming. What's next? If the Mustang gets hybrid technology, and at this point, the biggest complaint about the Mustangs, it doesn't have any torque down low. Could you imagine throwing, again, I'll use the example of 150 horsepower and 200 foot-pounds of torque on a platform that's already 600 or 800 pounds lighter than the Dodge? Oh, that's going to sting. But anyway, let me get to you guys real quick, and then we will carry on the chat. Bear with me, folks. Chuck's Fire saying good evening. Good evening, Chuck. My man. Michael Corleone in the house with the flex. I like it. Sovereign's in. Bruce is saying, Father Mopar, what's happening? What's up, brother? Ardell is in, saying no EVs. Not a fan. Eric's in, saying eating Professor B. Smoking 05 saying how to be on the freeway today. Saw 3 new Rivian trucks on a trailer being pulled by, you guessed it, a Ram Cummins diesel. Funny how it works out that way. I'll say the best I can get here in Montana is 91 octane. That's a bummer. Marco Muay Thai is in. Gotcha. High five. Asking, should I get a helmet and what year? Or a Hellcat in what year? My favorite Hellcat, if I was to buy one today, would be a 19 and up. And the reason why is you get the newer operating system with all the better Uconnect features and all of that. So that would be my suggestion. Get a 19 and up. Oh, saying he sold the vet and need another toy. What do you think is good? Man, if it's me, I immediately lean towards the Challenger Hellcat. It's, in terms of durability, incredibly difficult to beat. If you've got the funds for it, the Red Eye is nice. You can option it with a 309 gear. It comes with some heavy-duty parts. But don't think that you have to get a Red Eye and that you're settling for a Hellcat. Believe me, you are not going into a conflict unarmed with the Hellcat. But either way you go, it's going to be an awesome car. It's going to be a durable car as well. And really all you've got to worry about is keeping tires on the thing. That's the big part. Let's see. Behave saying scats forever. I like it. Bruce say, to be honest, I would go as far as say that I'm already pre-disappointed with what they've rumored to reveal. Good way to put it. I like it. The next Halo car better not be another supercharged contraption that no one can buy. And that is one of the issues. It's not going to be supercharged, but you'll need a supercharger to drive it. It'll be electric. And, well, we're just going to be right back into the same category. In fact, fewer people will be able to drive it because fewer people have access to the things that you need to charge your car. And Yali's in saying, even Brian got the fist bump and the flex. I like it. Got the bald guy rocking the shades. And of course, I don't have my sunglasses. They're in the truck. BB saying, just want to share my thoughts on a 426 Hemi. If Chevy can make an emissions compliant 427, surely Dodge can. Problem is that it would be priced too close to a Hellcat, if not more like the Z28. Here's the other issue that you've got with the 426. It just won't pass emissions because the rules have changed. I don't think, in fact, I'm almost positive that the LS7, I don't think it would pass emissions if it were brought to market today. I really don't. If it did, it would be just by the hair on its chinny chin. VA's in saying, hey, how's it going? It's going good. Truck is saying no. Ardell saying, I will not drive anything but my Hellcat. I've driven hybrids and they are not my style. Right there with you. See, the problem, the way I look at hybrids is that it's transitional technology. It's there to supplement the internal combustion engine, but it's really not doing it, in my opinion, the right way. If you're going to really do a hybrid the right way, then it's an all-electric vehicle that has the ability to be charged at home, but you've got a supplemental internal combustion engine to keep it charged up, the same way that locomotives and a lot of ships in the shipping industry, how they work. Let's see. George is saying, hey, B, quick question. I got a Scat Pack, stroke 426 Hemi, ported heads, ported stock intake, and full bolt-ons. Originally, I got a Comp 274, but my tuner suggested the MMX Max Effort V2. What do you think? Anything's going to be better than the Comp 274 in that combination. And I say that with all the love in the world for a Comp 274. It just has way too wide of a lobe separation angle for my taste. Here's the thing, whatever the MMX Max Effort V2, because that spec has actually changed a little bit over the years. Let me just give you my thoughts on a cam. I like cams for your combination somewhere around 114, 113 degree lobe separation at the widest, 114, and an intake center line around 108 to 109. And duration on the intake side, 232-ish, around 240, really more like 238 on the exhaust side. That's what kind of cam that engine's going to like. So, but that being said, only change it if you're just dying to throw a bunch of money at your car, brother, because the Comp 274 is just an old school kind of a grind. It's a good grind. In fact, it's kind of the smart money with a Comp 274 is to put a positive displacement supercharger on it. It's got a wide lobe separation angle, helps that positive displacement blower pack power up on the top end, all the while giving you really good boost response down low. So there's ways to go about this, and it just depends on how much money you're looking to spend. Options are drive it and enjoy it. If your tuner's suggesting that cam, I would max effort. That's marketing. There is no such thing as a max effort cam. Anyway, those are the specs. Those are an idea to float around. Check out the specs on whatever the latest max effort V2 is. As far as what you would stand to pick up, it's all mid-range, to be honest with you. The 274, Comp 274 has got a lot of lift. So, you're not lacking in lift. It's just where the events are taking place. Voodoo's saying I'll be driving good old gas-powered V8s for as long as I possibly can. Same, but not because I'm just Mr. Gasoline. It's not that. I freaking can't afford any of these EVs. So I'm pro internal combustion by default. Let's see. Blue Smoke saying, hey, man, what's happening? Ardell saying, I will drive my gasoline engine powered vehicles. I will walk first. I understand. Freddie saying, what's cooking, B? Oh, he's got the cadence down too. Flex and the bald guy, and I don't have my shades. I apologize. Bought some safety glasses. There you go. Oh, yeah, Chuck saying, Sovereign saying, Challenger FT Dubs, I like it. Chuck saying, my freak keeps trying to get me to drive his Plaid again. Every time I go there, I hop in that 69 Charger 440. He said he will sell it to me sometime. It just sits there in his shop. I tell you what, speaking of things that are just sitting there in your shop. So I'm a little bit late on the live tonight, primarily because I was working on Foxy, and older cars. Okay, so here's the thing: older cars got problems, and they're the kind of problems that are really annoying, like hoses that just randomly leak sometime, but then don't leak sometime, and then you go trying to find a leak that doesn't leak right now, but it will leak maybe later. But you're trying to really figure out where the leak is, and so you're running the car and you're sitting there and having the most boring game of stare contest with a hose that's on the EGR spacer. It's just, anyway, older cars are a pain in the ass. And if you've never owned one, you need to. It's like a rite of passage. I'm saying that. And I'm trying to possibly give a guy an offer on an 88 Ram Charger right now. I'm so stupid. Anyway, old cars, especially if they've sat, they haven't been maintained, haven't had belts, hoses, and everything else swapped out, can be a pain in the ass. Brakes, brake lines, and other things can flake out as well. So, yeah, there's always something with the old stuff. But you just can't beat them in terms of look and driving experience. Superstock saying, good evening, B. Good evening, Superstock. Slash is in saying, good to see another chat. Good to see you around, Slash. Chuck saying, I've almost died in it and I would love it like a porn star. I love it. True of us all. So I took Foxy out the other night. Oh, so you're going to love this. So I got the AC up and running in Foxy. And I know some guys are all there. I can't believe you use the EnviroSafe stuff. Yeah, I use the EnviroSafe stuff because it works, number one. And number two, why not? Anyway, AC's blowing cold, only to find out that it looks like the condenser core has a leak. Just saying. Possibly. I'm hoping that it's not. It's still holding pressure, and it's holding enough pressure to where you turn it on and the compressor won't cycle. It just keeps running, runs great. Pressure looks good, but anyway, that's another thing. It's just crazy. Anyway, getting back to you guys. Tad is in. Said, I've been hearing a bunch from people about hybrid Dodges. Seemed like this came out of left field. Yeah, and see, that's the problem. All of the hype was surrounding EVs. So what's all the chat about the hybrid now? See, the issue with the hybrid is that it's a stopgap measure. It always is going to be some level of being a stopgap measure. So you got to take the hybrid talk, not with a grain of salt, but just with a certain level of understanding. It just means that they haven't been able to get batteries or motor technology, or the thing hasn't passed crash testing, or hell, who knows? Red Dog 392 saying, hey, B, what's up? Shiv saying, what up, B? What's up, man? Slash asking, do you think the new Supreme Court ruling telling the EPA to back off of stuff will be good for internal combustion engines for a while, or does Dodge have nothing to do with it? Well, here's the thing. It's good on one hand because it's a common sense approach to what we're looking at. I mean, saying that you can't modify your own property is a little bit weird. So to me, it's ownership rights thing more than anything else. Dodge really doesn't have anything to do with that. In fact, Dodge has got its own series of problems trying to get the calibrations that they were working on for the what was it? The pre-stage, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 for all the supercharged applications. They're having hell getting those things through emissions compliance through EPA, even though they're following the same rules that they followed for the Hellcat. It's a little bit different when you start throwing smaller pulleys and different ways of testing these calibrations that didn't exist back when the Hellcats were originally put out there. In fact, you know that little recall that's floating around out there for the Hellcats? Well, you guys got to remember, and I had to get educated on this as well. In fact, you guys did that calibration, and I've actually now seen the calibration in person, and I've data logged a car with the new calibration, and I can tell you that the big push at that point for the new calibration was for for it to go into cat overtemp basically about the time the car goes into any real heavy load. And so it's weird that the cars make the power that they do. But anyway, it just goes real rich. It's kind of a weird thing with that calibration. And I can't really explain to you why that's a good thing. I mean, catalytic converters seem to last pretty long, so I don't know. Anyway, getting back to it. Let's see. Anthony's asking, is it just the Hellcat gone after 2023, or is the entire Charger Challenger lineup gone as we know it? Well, we've heard several different answers to that question. One is the likelihood of the Hellcat platform going away in its entirety is the highest. So let's just go with that. The 392 cars and the 5.7 would be a much lower level of confirmation. A lot of this has to do with whatever the new platform will accommodate. In fact, originally the new platform was being put together to accommodate V8 engines. So I would say that the Hellcat going away is more of a possibility, with the NA stuff being a much lower possibility, primarily to keep costs low. So, and again, the Hellcat platform, here's the other thing though, they've been talking about possibly hybridizing the Hellcat platform. So, the more you sit around and wait, the more answers you're going to get to those questions, my friend. And unfortunately, I don't even know if we're going to hear an answer to that when Kaniskis gets out on Woodward Avenue and starts giving us his pitch on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. And I think that's next month. Is it this month? Somebody check that out. When is the Woodward Dream Cruise? I think it's July, but for some reason I keep thinking it's August. Anyway, Catalyst is asking, wait, I missed the comments about a cam for the Hellcat. Oh, no. What I was talking about is somebody had a combination. It was a 426, and he's currently running a Comp 274. And my personal opinion of the Comp 274 in general, I wouldn't run it in a naturally aspirated car, but it makes for a pretty good positive displacement supercharger cam. I would not run it with a Senti. That means ProCharger, Vortec, anything like that. I would not run that cam with that combination unless you're looking to turn significant RPM on the big end. It's got a 116-degree lobe separation angle. It's not as wide as stock, which is 121, but it does have a good chunk of duration in there. So although you will get a possible bump somewhere, you got to remember you just can't, you're not going to be able to adjust it. In fact, you're just going to lock that cam out anyway. So, it's better to go with a cam that is really good at being a naturally aspirated cam with a centrifugal blower, so that you use the blower to drag your RPM up instead of the cam dragging the RPM even further out than what it needs to be. You'll start getting into you'll have to spin it to 7,200 RPM just to really get any power out of it. And then the power is super flat. You never really feel like it's making any power at all. That's a weird thing. Stuart, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying, if Dodge comes out with a 1,100 horsepower EV, will it render the Hellcat obsolete? You've got to define obsolescence. So let's look at it from a couple of points of view. If you are considering obsolescence from the point of view of flat out acceleration, then the Hellcat will only be relevant as a nostalgia class racer. 1,100 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, nobody really has a ceiling for these EVs. But I can tell you that the difference in acceleration from one to the next is staggering. I can tell you that I raced the Type X. I get so baffled by the different ones. Anyway, the other Plaid, the Plaid SUV. And the interesting thing is I was all over this guy for about the first eighth of a mile. And then after that, that SUV basically hollered peace out and was gone. And so, again, you have to define obsolescence. And here's the other thing. It depends on what you like to do with a car. If you're like me My wife and I love jumping in to Chandelier and going on road trips. It's an awesome grand touring car. In fact, it's what it does best. That and drag racing, but it does amazing at that task. Would you be able to do that with an 1100 horsepower EV? Well, I mean, would you be able to do it with a 500 horsepower EV? Maybe, maybe not. But it's kind of hard to go running around the hill country, Texas, do a 3 hours out, 4 hours out, 4 hours back in, have a full 8-hour turn on this thing. And I mean, I'm going to be probably pushing the thing into the driveway at that point. I'm not really sure it'd be my cup of tea. So in terms of making it obsolete, it would not make it obsolete in the tasks of being an automobile that is just really good to drive. But from a performance point of view, it is the absolute polar opposite. Let me rephrase that. It is in a completely different league than what the Hellcat or any of the Hellcat variants are currently in terms of outright acceleration. If that's what you're out there looking for, absolutely it'll make it obsolete. So again, but with a twist, because if you're going to call it obsolete, let me just say that if you end up being able to buy 2 Hellcats for every whatever the EV is going to be called, if the cost delta is so great, if the Hellcat, just a 717, and I don't mean that to be just a, but you know what I mean. If a Hellcat represents 50% of the cost of this new EV, it doesn't matter. There's no level of obsolescence there for me, because who's going to buy it? What some well-heeled troll is going to get his mitts on one of these things and do what with it? Go slam the thing around on the street, go to the drag strip, whatever. It's a sideshow act at best. And I mean that in the carnival sense. So until these things are more mainstream, until it's easier to charge them and more convenient to charge them, and they're not pandering to the well-heeled when it comes to these contraptions, it'll make the Hellcat obsolete in the same way that, I don't know, a McLaren 720 makes a Hellcat obsolete, or in the way that a Tesla Plaid makes a Hellcat obsolete. It doesn't. And it doesn't really fit the same narrative. But man, I appreciate the contribution to the cause, my friend. I really, really do. Get back up here. Shift is asking, he's saying, can I keep my stock exhaust for my 16 Scat Pack if I decide to go with long tubes? Yeah, you can. There's a mid pipe with cats that bolt straight up to your stock cat back. Also, should I keep stock cats or go with the high flows? Well, you're going to go with a set of high flow cats if you get the long tubes, and you're going to want to get the metal substrate. Do not get the ceramic catalytic converters. I don't even know if they sell those anymore, but you're going to want to get the high flow catalytic converters that are metal substrate, 200 cell, I believe. Cal is saying replacing hybrid battery packs are expensive. Yes, $5,000 for a Toyota hybrid battery pack, and the car's only worth $1,000. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? I mean, think of this. You've got a hybrid, right? And let's say you're a single mom, single dad. You bought this hybrid so that you can drag the kids around. Man, money's tight. You don't really have time to be messing with issues with the car. You need an appliance that gets you from point A to point B to point C, back to point A, runs the kids around or whatever. And then you have a failure of the vehicle in terms of a battery pack that was supposed to be saving you money in terms of actual monthly budget dollars, only to have that same component fail and wreck far and away more your budget than if you'd have just bought an F-150, right? I mean, you'd have been better off with that from a money standpoint, because it would not have failed where this EV did. And now you're stuck with the proposition of dropping a significant amount of coin on a sled that ain't worth the cash. So it's rough, man. It's a strange conversation to have with people. But here's the thing. It's starting to happen now. A lot of hybrid vehicles are getting older from, the mid 2000s when the hybrid thing had first started getting kicking. It's just now getting to the point where those vehicles are starting to fail, and folks that have bought them, they're now second and third hand cars. They were bought because it was some cheap thing and that they got a hybrid, which meant something to them, but now they're having to fix it. And as EVs get older, the same thing will happen. Here's a funny thing. This has been, I don't know, 3 months ago, however long ago it was, I had gone to meet a client for lunch, and I parked the truck, and I happened to park next to a Tesla. And what was funny is that the Tesla had paper tags on it, but it was a used car. You could tell it was bought as a used car. And the interior of this thing looked like a 5-year-old had thrown up toys and crap and everything else on the inside of this car. I just happened to look over. It was parked right next to it. And what struck me as kind of funny about this whole thing is that it was just the I don't know, it was almost like a serenity moment where you're like, it's just an automobile, just a car. Nobody cares. It's a transportation appliance. And, at the end of the day, it's going to end. And the problem also with that type of a car is that the resale value isn't awesome. In fact, there's a lot of folks that are trying to sprint away from them right now. So, Gary, man, thank you very much for the contribution, my man. Thank you so much. Saying thank you for the live, bro. Thank you, man. I appreciate that a ton. I want to make sure I get any questions that you may have had. But man, thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate that. Oh, here he's up here. Hello, everybody. In fact, he was right underneath Catalyst when I was mentioning. Man, thank you very much, but I appreciate that. That's very, very generous, everybody. Thank you. Let's see. Red Dog saying, laughing at old cars. You know what's funny? So I am a sucker for an old truck, for an old car, anything like that. And I love the styling and I love the driving experience of it. But it's tough. It's a tough road to hoe. And look, so I will probably end up. I will kick myself if I don't make an offer on that Ram Charger, and I'll kick myself if the guy takes the offer that I give him. It's a TBI truck, and it's just like, oh gosh. I mean, you want to talk about transitional technology, but. And it's a 318. I really don't want a 318 truck, but, you put a regulator on it, throw a carburetor on it. I don't know. Heave a 408 and go out there and have some fun. I don't know. Ardell's saying EVs are so expensive. There is no way I can afford to buy the batteries. A millionaire would go broke. Yeah, it's pretty much a lot of people are finding that out. I am not closed-minded at all, and I'm just not rich. And I get that. I'm right there with you. I would not mind looking at one. So the thing is that you are in the same boat that a lot of folks are in. I mean, I'm not closed-minded to the idea. To me, it's just a powertrain. I'm just thinking of ways that I can tune the thing. It's going to be a lot of torque management, defeating a lot of torque management. How do I hook up a bunch of capacitors in series to get the thing to really scream? There's ways to do it. But the thing is that it is so expensive, prohibitively expensive, that it just doesn't make any sense. I can't get excited about something that I can never pull the trigger on. I say never, but you kind of understand where I'm coming from with that. And well, like most of you guys, it just doesn't fit the monthly note. Catalyst is saying, is built versus bought a misnomer since very few people can actually do their own install? I actually went off on that. I had one of my normal tirades over built versus bought and why it is such a misnomer and how it is so annoying to hear people talk about built versus bought. My car's built versus bought. It doesn't make any sense. First of all, built versus bought. I built mine. Really? You put that body on that frame. You engineered that engine. You designed that transmission. You cut that drive shaft out of freaking what? No, you didn't build it. You augmented it. And the other thing is, they don't keep a Chevy and a Chevy and a Ford and a Ford. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, kinda. But let's talk about how much Chevy is left in your Chevy or how much Dodge is left in your Dodge. And obviously, we're talking power plants. Nobody pays attention to transmissions. But how much of that engine is still Mopar when the cylinder heads, the pistons, the rods, in some cases, the crankshaft, the intake manifold, the carburetor, or whatever else you put on there, the injectors and everything else had nothing to do with the original manufacturer whatsoever. Sometimes that's even including the block. You didn't whittle that thing out of aluminum yourself. You didn't build any of that. And for a lot of people, since they're cheap as hell and they're communist bastards, are buying Chinese parts, so more of your car has been made by a red country than it was when you bought it. And that's the other weird thing. It's built, not bought, with a bunch of Chinese parts. And chances are, statistically speaking, you didn't build it yourself. You bought the parts and you paid somebody to do it. Built versus bought only comes, in my opinion, it only is valid if you have stock heads that you ported, stock intake manifold that you ported, you augmented the car with parts from the parts bin of the manufacturer that the car came from. Is this starting to sound a little bit familiar? Chandelier, ring a bell here? Basically, everything on that car was put together by Mopar, except for two parts. Well, three. The bumper support, but that's a local, or that's a fabricator that's kind to the Mopar community. And that's also to include a set of TBA idler pulleys because they're stock size. They were just ugly. I didn't like the way the stock ones looked. They were rusted. And a JLT cold air kit. Aside from that, the whole thing comes out of a Mopar catalog, or you could have salvaged the parts out of a junkyard for that matter. So I'm still left to wonder, built versus bought. Anyway, I can go on and on with this. This is a very much Cliff Notes version of my argument to this, but whenever I hear that, I cringe because I know for a fact that for a lot of those guys that are hollering built versus bought, they never got any dirt underneath their fingernails getting that thing built by somebody else, buying their time. Just saying. Chuck saying old cars are consistent engine cars, but they are still fun. Oh, yeah. The plaid that, Ranty's Rides just reviewed 150. Enjoy that payment. Yeah, $150. Man, when you're dropping a freaking 150 large on a car, holy mackerel. Oh, God. So the question earlier was, okay, well, does the plaid or the EV make the Hellcat irrelevant or obsolete? It's $150,000. And listen, we're living in a world where super stocks can go for 110, 120. Demons are somehow or another commanding 130, although that market has come down quite a bit. I don't even know how you answer the question of does that make sense? Like there's not enough initial shock words that come to mind that'll tell you no. But another thing to consider, so $150,000, you can literally buy two Hellcats for that. That's what I was saying earlier. technically you're over 1,400 horsepower for $150,000. You just can't drive them both at the same time, unfortunately. And again, Stuart, thank you, buddy. Arnold saying road trips are so fun. My Hellcat does well. Oh yeah, man. Nothing soaks up miles like one of these Mopars at all. Sovereign's got a good point saying the Demon didn't render the Hellcat obsolete. No, it did not. Red Dog saying so true, for sure. Sovereign saying there's boring EV and then there's fun Hellcat. Stuart saying, yep, Plaid is twice the price of a Hellcat. I didn't. That's right. They did. They are high now, aren't they? Sovereign saying classic muscle cars aren't obsolete. Perform. They are still very desirable. Let me take that another direction for you, my friend. I'll say not only are they not obsolete, the pricing of these things should, if nothing else, give you an indication of just how important those cars are to people. Red Dog, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying can't do electric. Sorry. Hey, man, look, I'm right there with you. I can't, even if I wanted to. Let's say I was, walking down the middle of Main Street, USA, with a big, yellow hat and a freaking cane, and I'm stomping and I'm leading the band for EVs, and I'm twirling that thing. I can't either, no matter how much I want to, because I ain't got the cheddar to freaking drop on one, and nobody really does. I mean, yeah, okay, people do. Okay, fine, whatever. But the reality is that they're prohibitively expensive, which makes them the target for guys like a lot of us. We're going, dude, I'm just sorry. I'm just not able to spend that kind of money on a car. But it's not a sour grapes thing. Give us something cool, waterfall some of that technology. Let's see something like a 500 horsepower, but it's like 700 pound-feet of torque. Let's see something cool like that, rear wheel drive or all wheel drive. It doesn't matter. Give us some kind of a cool hot rod so that we can talk about this and get excited. Listen, nothing bore, and this is a weird thing to say, especially coming out of my mouth, but nothing will bore me faster than a car with 1,200, 1,100, 1,000 horsepower or whatever that is a one-trick pony contraption that, on one hand, I'm elated that I never have to worry about parts failure. And I mean axles, drive shaft, cylinder head. You can't ventilate the block of an electric motor. I never have to worry about fuel quality. There's a lot of cool upside to EV. But the downside is that, well, for the cost of the thing, you could buy a Hellcat, buy another Hellcat, and actually have enough money left over to mod the Hellcat. And if you frag it, you got one on the side. So it's such a tough conversation to have with folks, because a lot of the folks on the EVs, well, when they're talking about the EVs, will take some kind of level moral high ground. Like, I'm doing my part for the environment. Really? What is it, like 70% of all the electricity in the United States is generated by coal? When's the last coal-powered car you ever saw just going down the road? And I mean like a steam-powered or a steam generator-powered car. Cars don't run on coal. Trains don't run on coal. Why are we talking about these? The moral, just the hubris of somebody to be able to say, I'm doing more for the environment. No, you're not. And here's the other thing about EVs that gets me really kind of worked up. One of my problems with EVs is that it is almost put out into the world that all you do is you come home, you park your car in the garage, as presumptuous as that is already. You bring your car into the garage and you plug it in to the wall, and you go inside, you get you a snacky snack, brush your teeth, go to bed, wake up, the car's full of electricity, and you drive around the next day. Well, that's kind of true, except it's played off like you're plugging in your cell phone. This lamp over here, the charger for your top of the line, nothing is even better on the planet, Hercules drill, like you're plugging that into the wall. So the cost to fill her up ain't what it is to fill her up on this drill or this phone. It's really more like if you filled it up, $15, $18, $20 from empty. So if you figure like everybody else, you're going to use about a third of your range every day. Well, then you got to figure you're going to be spending around $7 a day on transportation costs, right? Well, that means that your electricity bill goes up by $7 a day for a working week. At least the business days, you would assume that you're driving back and forth to work. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But the fact of the matter is that it adds up, and nobody's really talking about that cost, which is strange to me. It's like, don't look behind this curtain here, but it does cost money to put gas or coal or electrons, really, into your EV. So since we're talking about that, I'm not going to worry about the grid. The grid's fine. What I'm really more concerned with is how does that impact your monthly bills, your economy, your budget? How does that affect you to know that you're going to have at least $200 in a bump in your electricity cost? Not to mention the cost to put the charger in the house and all of that. I don't even know what that costs, but I've heard big numbers. But the reality here is it's not free to put electricity into an electric car. And it's almost like folks are trying to act like it is. It's not. And if you've got to do that and you're going to live with that EV, what happens when the battery starts to lose its ability to take a charge? I mean, I understand it. Let's say it goes from 100%. Now it can only take 90% or 85%. You still have a significant amount of range, but is it enough anymore? Because remember, we were talking about, well, let's say you use up a third of your range. Well, a per day, business day that you're driving it. Well, if it gets down to 85%, the amount of usage that you have doesn't change, but your gas tank is getting smaller. So now instead of it taking up a third, it might take up closer to a half. Now that your range has gone down, and you're probably already suffering from range anxiety before that anyway. Now that your range has gone down, you might start thinking, well, maybe I need to get new batteries for this thing. So now, how do you account for the money to replace the batteries? I would say it goes into a fuel budget. Well, you just shattered that, because even though you're only spending $7 or $8 a day, and this is business days, to fill her up, now if you're looking at the prospect of a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 battery swap, and you account for that in your fuel charges that you would have had if you're a gasoline-powered car, well, now you're all back to square one, if not further in the red. Where's the freaking convenience for that? Where's the economy for that? Doesn't look good. Anyway, let me get back to you guys. Let's see. Raging Bull saying, are people running out to buy the Plaid? Don't think so. They can't afford it. EVs will never replace internal combustion in terms of sound, fun to own, seeing them at car shows, etc. Just my opinion. For one, nobody can afford to just run out and buy a Plaid. And two, they're catering to a little bit different clientele, which is why I was a little bit perturbed that Dodge was picking the Woodward Dream Cruise, or at least roadkill nights at Woodward, to unveil this. More of a celebration of the internal combustion engine. It's kind of a shit thumb type of a thing to do. Sovereign saying EVs lack the looks. Agreed with that. That's something else. The styling doesn't cost you anything. Like making something look good, look cool, that you can do that for free. It doesn't matter what kind of power plant's in it. So can you make one look cool? I don't know. It's something to think about, but good point. Chuck saying, I see just as many muscle cars out there, old and new, than EVs. Probably more. Oh, absolutely. Actually, lately, I've been seeing a lot of Teslas running around this place, but we've got a lot of old school hot rods that run around down here. So, and again, Gary, thank you, brother, for the contribution. Someone saying, when I see a Tesla, I don't get excited versus seeing a classic. Well, the problem is you'd be forgiven if you just overlooked the Tesla more than anything else. So, that's, I mean, when you think of it from that perspective, it's pretty easy to miss them, Just taking some notes here, fellas. Let's see. Oh, Ardell's agreeing with Sovereign. And Sovereign brings up a good point. EVs will never offer that desire versus a classic. Here's the funny thing. It's funny what people will gravitate towards. And you'll hear me say this a lot. There's a seat for every ass and an ass for every seat. There are guys that geek out over what we would consider old technology, like technology from the early 2000s, Razor phones and stuff like that. They'll have a collection of this stuff. The thing is, I'm not so sure, other than a curiosity, I'm not so sure even the Plaid would fall in with that. Any of the EVs that are out there today, I just don't know that they fall under or into a level where anybody would want to collect them. And it's funny because if you look at the car market in general, cars that are hot right now are cars that you would never have thought would have been cool. Mopars, for example, Shelby Daytonas, any Daytona for that matter, Dodge 600s are starting to get some pub. These little economy hot rods that were coming out at that time, there's people that are kind of gravitating towards those a little bit. I don't see any of the EV, and these are cars you've been like, oh God, no, that thing's disposable. Well, maybe, but the thing is you can still run them on gasoline. You can obviously still get parts for them. You can fix them up, hot rod them, and have them make a pretty decent amount of power. And I'm not saying that electrons are going away, but the fact of the matter is that EVs, it's kind of hard to really gravitate towards those from a romance point of view. That rumble of the V8, the theater that it brings, the presence that it has. It's part of the arrival. It creates a statement. It's just cool in general. It takes an understanding and a working knowledge of the internal combustion engine just to drive the thing and understand what's going on. In many cases, definitely if you've got a classic. And it definitely adds to the experience when you have that kind of knowledge and you know what's going on. And there's a connection that you get that you just don't get with the EVs. You take the sound and all of that is subjective because there's a lot of guys that like their internal combustions to be really, really quiet. But I just, at the end of the day, don't see the EV being a collectible until EVs become, enjoyable, cool, poster cars, until EVs gain the respect. And I mean respect in the way that you would be proud to have or would want to try to modify and do something with them, make them your own. EVs don't really offer that. So a lot of guys really shy away from them. Part of the whole ownership process is to make it your own. With an automobile, it's an art form. just as much, and a lifestyle to that matter, just as much as it is a transportation appliance. There's so much more that comes with the ownership of that vehicle than just the vehicle itself. And because the EV lacks in presence, whatever it does in terms of performance, straight line, acceleration, and all of that one trick pony stuff that it may do well, but it doesn't do it with any theater. It does it with all the interest and passion and excitement and sense of danger and sense of knowing that you could push it just too far and have it pop. There's a little excitement with that. There is a danger to that. That danger creates intrigue. It creates a storyline, and it gives it a character arc. And this is where people really fail to understand. Those that don't understand why the internal combustion is so well loved and liked is because the EV, if you're familiar with literary terms, the EV is practically a Mary Sue for most people out there. You say, well, what the hell are you talking about, a Mary Sue? A Mary Sue is a character that can seemingly do no wrong, is loved from the beginning for no apparent reason. Everything that character does is amazing or is accepted as being good, better, or best, and is better than their rivals, seemingly without any lack of training whatsoever. That is a Mary Sue type character. And because the EVs are such a Mary Sue type character, they don't have a complete character arc. You know, God, that car is just so freaking cold natured. It doesn't want to fire up when it's cold. It's a pain in the ass. It's rickety. Fire up, it's rich. Or it doesn't, the blower whine is such a major thing about that car. The exhaust note or the snappiness and all this other stuff, the sound and everything else. It creates a little bit of a character arc for that particular engine. And every engine has that in some level or another. Well, the EV doesn't, and it doesn't tell a story. And since the EV really doesn't tell a story, it lacks the theater and it lacks the presence of an internal combustion engine. And look, I understand it's not a logical way of thinking about things, but cars are not a logical purchase. Most people buy cars out of passion and out of interest, not out of necessity for a transportation appliance. So, it's neat if the transportation appliance can accelerate at an astonishing rate, but it's done. It's over with. There's no time to be able to enjoy what the hell is going on, much less what just happened. So that's really more my take on the EVs. I understand why the EV isn't so well loved, and it's because people don't have a connection to it as a character, as part of the family. I mean, look, I don't know of too many people that sit around and hug their toaster, but you'll definitely pat your dash. You know what I'm talking about. Car does something good. Truck does something you didn't expect it to, lit the tires up a little bit more, caught that second or third gear scratch. Like, hell yeah, slap that dash. Good job, baby girl. Everybody does that. If you're a car guy anyway, you ain't going to slap the dash of a Plaid. It doesn't work like that. And you slap it because there's some level of you that's proud. You didn't expect it to do that. It was cool. It was a neat story to tell. It created a neat story to tell. That's why the internal combustion is so great. Red Dog, thank you very much, saying thank you for supporting the theater of the car. Absolutely. And that's the biggest part of the support that I have for the internal combustion engine. You guys got to remember, I just look at the EVs as just another power plant to try to hot rod, but you're not seeing me run out and grab one anytime soon. In fact, I'm waiting on a truck that I was vehemently opposed to eTorque to begin with. Hopefully I'll be able to get that thing ordered. Today's the 9th of July, 2022. we are hoping to be able to order the thing here in the next 1 to 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks if RAM opens that thing up. But I'm also potentially, so the Ram Charger is a vehicle that if I buy it, I'm going to wish I hadn't. And if I don't buy it, I'm going to wish I had. So we'll see. I just got to try to make an offer. And if he jumps on that offer, I'm going to throw up. Anyway, thank you, Red Dog. I appreciate you, brother. Let's see. Oh, sorry, lost my spot here. Hang on just a second, guys. I think this is where I ended up. Oh, Ardell saying, thank you, B. Mason. I really enjoy your chats. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Red Dog saying, never. Sovereign saying, electric is for hipsters. We're old schoolers when cars look sexy on like sex on wheels, not aerodynamic, boring things like EVs. They just don't have any style, do they? And again, you can make something stylish. It's okay. It's cooler if you do. Chuck's saying, honestly, if it was in my budget to get a Plaid, I would just get a Super Stock or a Demon. There's a lot of folks that would agree with that, myself included. Sovereign saying, yep. Stuart saying, the more I hear about what's in the red eye, the more I'm impressed. Do you think that should have been what's in the standard Hellcat? Seems like a solid value. Man, so here's the thing. The Hellcat platform is really robust. It is stout. I have seen regular old Hellcats take some boost like you wouldn't believe, abuse like you wouldn't believe, come out the other end smelling like a rose. It's already really, really, really good. So the red eye is just a better version of something that's already unbelievably good. Is it worth it? I would say that, yeah, it's worth it, but just understand that in terms of being an upgrade, but just understand that the Hellcat is already coming into this with unbelievably stout parts. Again, I have seen stock Hellcats run mid nines 200, 300, 400 times and not have any issues whatsoever. I've seen them run low tens, high nines for years and not have any issues. It's crazy how they just keep running like that. Some are saying EVs are not green. They require fossil fuels to charge them. True. They require the use of fossil fuel vehicles to mine the elements for the batteries, et cetera. And that's something I was talking about before, is just how gross mining for those batteries components can be. Some are saying only the ignorant can see EVs are green. They're not looking in. They're blinders. And it's ignorance in the truest form of the word. Ignorance with the root word is to ignore. And in this case, ignorance is specifically meaning ignoring facts to only further your own narrative. Blinders. That is the root word definition of ignorance. Chuck saying snowflake wagons. Ardell saying, are the batteries in those EVs environmentally safe? Absolutely not. They're horrible for the environment. Not only to mine them, but the countries that some of the components of those batteries are mined in are not. I hate the word, but I don't know how else to say it. They are struggling economies. To call them third world, it sounds like an insult, but these are highly struggling economies with child labor laws that don't exist. We're talking about a lot of stuff that goes on to get the components for the batteries that create a lot of friction for the people that maybe would buy an EV but don't want to buy the EV because the way that the batteries are, the way that the materials for the batteries are collected goes against their internal ethics. You know, it's just they don't find it to be something that they want to be a part of. Chuck's saying, yeah, strip mining in other countries is really EPA friendly. Exactly. It's funny that nobody seems to worry about that at all. Oh, District saying a lot of people are pushing for charging stations, but a charger and a garage is almost impossible in places like New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Miami. Just pick any of these major cities in any one of the states. And I've even been saying this for a while. It's hard to get behind and to listen to people talk about how good EVs are when you're immediately assuming that these people have a home, a place to charge this thing. If you live in an apartment, how are you going to charge it? What, are you going to run the extension cord out to your car? It doesn't work like that. You know how many ripped off extension cords there would be? The other thing is, what, do you honestly think that you could charge it like that anyway? I mean, that 110 volt thing that you got coming out of your wall ain't going to cut it. And so 110 watts, sorry, isn't going to cut it. So what gives? How are you going to make this work? Especially if you got to charge the thing overnight. You're going to get about a third or a fifth of what you could get into that thing if you had an actual charger. It's just really weird to hear people say, just buy an EV or just buy a hybrid for that matter. How very dare you to say something like that, people that say things like that. Sovereign saying, a mine in general requires fossil fuels. Absolutely it does. Oh, much like the feel good legislation. Yeah, I don't like that either. I hate it. Because it flies in the face of the science that backs it. That's the problem. So we're saying electric's not capable of replacing internal combustion engines for this task. For a lot of tasks. Would you want your ambulance to be like on the way to come get you and then it runs out of electricity or has a battery problem or something? No. What about nobody's talking about electric airplanes, are they? Sovereign saying the longer you keep that EV, the more paranoia and anxiety you're going to have with the capacity keeps dropping. That's what I'm talking about for sure. So we're saying a lot of states have an extra fee for EVs and hybrids because of money lost on revenue from the state on gas. It happened to me when I renewed my tags on his Toyota hybrid. I couldn't believe it. Really? I had heard about people doing that, but I just hadn't heard about it directly. That's crazy. Let's see. Dixter's saying people also forget to leave out the fact that you have to make time to change your car for 30 to 45 minutes between work, gym, etc. That's a big part of it. Absolutely it is. Ardell saying right now, Montana, there are very little charge stations for EVs. I've not seen any EVs here at all. Yeah, I doubt you would up in Montana. Chuck's hanging out with Stuart saying good point. Dix is saying also don't like the minimalistic approach to these cars. The interiors aren't much better. It's just a screen. And part of what a lot of people are saying about that too, you talking about Tesla in particular here, build quality is not that great. You're paying all this money for something that's got like mid 90s GM build quality, which is not at all a compliment. District saying, what's the tax credit for EVs? Is that even still an incentive to buy them? I'm not aware that it is anymore. Raging saying TFL tested the range on EV F-150 while towing, didn't hit the range as claimed by the truck's internal calculator. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that it would. That's real optimistic, I would think. Sovereign saying EVs will fall more into a throwaway appliance. Do you see people salvaging or salivating over wanting a classic Walkman? How about a Betamax? Nope. Sovereign saying the fact that it connects to a power cord, it's an appliance, not an automobile. I get it. Slash saying the first cars ever were electric. Then they figured out internal combustion was more efficient. And now we're being forced back into electric with internal combustion still being more efficient. What's funny about the original electric cars is that they worked really well for their environment. They were all city vehicles and they worked fantastically in that respect. It's just the downside is they don't work outside of it's the thing is again, they have their place. They really do. But don't try to force a narrative on it. Like it's like how you focus on reality. Focus on what they would be good for. Focus on the real and don't try to bring in some make-believe hooey to throw on top of it to say, well, this is better for the environment. I don't care. Okay. I'm not that I don't care about the environment. I don't care that you're telling me that it's better for the environment. I'm assuming that it's okay for the environment if it's out here. And if you're going to say it's better, then how is it better? Oh, it's just better. What do you mean? Oh, it's just better. Is this one of those trust the science things again? Oh, it's just better. Explain to me how it's better. And a lot of the folks can't. They don't understand what strip mining does. And that can go on and on and on. But the reality is that drilling for oil ain't exactly the cleanest thing in the world to do either. I guess the point here is they both have their place. Don't try to attach an ideology onto a power plant. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So this happened not to this level, but this kind of happened at one point. It kind of happened in the late 70s, early 80s, when manufacturers were really starting to look at four-cylinder turbos, V6s, and in some cases, six-cylinder turbos to replace V8s. And the interesting thing is that the technology to make the four-cylinder turbos, the V6s, and the V6 turbos, supercharged, whatever, work, that same technology worked for V8s. And so it was the push for the high power density from a four-cylinder turbo, for example, that allowed the high power density to be engineered into the V8s. And, there was some concurrent technology that was going on between the two. But again, a lot of guys are going, I'd never drive a four-cylinder, whatever, da-da-da-da. And then you got other guys that fall in love with the technology and run with it. Well, this is obviously not really the same thing because, those two guys can meet up and at the gas station and argue it out, get them out on the street and see who gets to the end of the line first. But this is a little bit different, and I understand that, but it still has a little bit of that flavor to it. And again, Red Dog, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate the contribution, my friend. Chuck saying vinyl records are back, Atari is back, and collector markets anyways. Same reason why muscle cars will never die out. Never, and they won't either. Have you seen the price? Chuck saying passion for the look and the sound. Absolutely. Oh, EV. Oh, Hemming saying EV Mary Sue. Very good analogy. Thank you, buddy. Chuck saying the feeling you get when you bury the throttle. Absolutely. Can't beat it on a good running internal combustion. Ardell saying there's nothing like the sound of a V8. I love the classics and the modern muscle. There's nothing going to replace it. Yeah, I believe you there. I'm right there with you. Sovereign saying once the EV hype falls off and becomes mainstream, I seriously doubt people will go back 50 years or look back 50 years and want a classic EV. It'll just be as forgettable as an old cell phone. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of folks that, hey, you want to talk about obsolete. So the question earlier, will the EVs make a Hellcat obsolete? No, but EVs will make EVs obsolete. When you think of it from that point of view. Superior Fit saying EVs are so freaking boring. Love my red eye for sure. Chuck saying I talk to my shaker often. Absolutely. Superior saying if I'm driving my diesel, I'll get in front of Teslas and give them a puff of black smoke. Dad's saying, yep, put the pat in the dash saying good girl is a real thing. Hell yes, it is. Mike's saying the problem with Tesla is only tells one man's story. Well, the problem with Tesla is that it sets the stage for others to tell their story. And, you know, when you look at the Silverado, when you look at the e-Hummer, for example, when you look at all the other EVs that are out on the market, just pick one. They're all basically the same car. I mean, let me put it like this. How do you get enthusiastic about an electric motor? Like, is Ford going to have a higher horsepower, lower torque motor? Is that how this is going to work? Or the Mopar electric motor is going to be low RPM, super high torque, but just not as much horsepower? I mean, how is this going to play out? I'm just trying to figure out like how this is really going to end up working, because right now, I don't really care who makes the motor in my electric Razor. It just has to work. And it's kind of falling into the same thing with EVs. You know, internal combustion, there is a very real personal connection that people get with their internal combustion engines that you just don't see with when people talk about EVs. EVs are more a statement piece, it seems like, which is okay. So walk with me on this. I get why the truck platform is getting so much push on the EV side. And when you think about it, it makes sense. It's a larger platform, means you can stack a whole lot of batteries in there. It's a larger platform, so you can put some big old motors on that thing and have it go really fast. But for me, it's weird that it would be a truck, because you see, trucks have to do, I don't know, truck shit, like haul things. They have to tow things. They're not particularly aerodynamic. They have large wheels and tires, and they have to have large wheels and tires because the vehicle is large and it has to be able to stop safely. And so there's all of these little things that come into play when we're talking about trucks. People are touting the fact that these are EV trucks and it's supposed to be a big deal, a great thing. But so far as what we've seen, they kind of don't really live up to the promise that they give in terms of performance and range. Performance is, in this case, economy. So yeah, they're fast as hell, but they don't really give you the kind of range that you're looking for. And God forbid you try to tow something across town and back. You're certainly not dragging your race car to the next track with an EV truck. Let's be honest here. So anyway, let's see. Sovereign saying mechanical, analog, internal combustion engine brings fascination. Electrical, digital, not as much. Very true. You know, there's a lot of easy ways to do things, but you will always stop and watch a Rube Goldberg device, won't you? I mean, you have to. That's an internal combustion engine, sort of, if you want to think of it in those terms. I mean, yeah, it's a lot easier just to take the pin and move it and put it there. But if I had this thing bouncing, rattling around, or balls jumping up and down, or, you know, I don't know, something doing flips and, you know what I'm talking about. That's interesting. There's an interest in mechanical things. It doesn't have to always be about efficiency, because the digital thing, the electric thing, is very inefficient at one thing, and that's entertaining me. In fact, it's very inefficient at entertaining me. Jimmy Dad saying a guy with a 318 dart says it sounds good, but would not pull your hat off. 318's a dog. Yeah, it is. It is, but I mean, what else would I do? It's all they came with back then. So, Sovereign saying that 6.2 is freaking solid. Yes, it is. Sovereign saying Scotty Kilmer, he's not big on Mopar. He actually bashes Mopar a lot, but he does admit that the Hellcat 6.2 is one of the best Mopar engines to date. Oh, yeah, it is. And listen, you can talk all you want, but the market would dictate that a lot of folks really do like their Dodges. Jimmy Dad's saying the word you're looking for regarding the battery mining countries is shitholes. It is. Sovereign saying 24 plus hours on 120 volts. Yeah, that's if the extension cord doesn't burst into flames. Sovereign saying no way, EV ambulance. Mopar Shark Attack saying people are starting to push back against the EV wave. In California last year, 20% or 1 out of 5 buyers of EVs switched back to gas cars. Kind of shocked to hear that. I'm not. I'm surprised. I'm shocked a little bit, but I'm not surprised that they are going back for the reasons we're just talking about. Dang. Smooth saying, yeah, here in Ohio, it's $2.25 for a renewed registration if you have an EV. Damn. Kin797 saying EVs will cause a tax on your electric bill since the government will not be able to collect as much on the gas tax. That's right. Sovereign saying Joe Biden or Bo Biden would have us believe the EVs are the future. It's pretty rich coming from a dude that has a collector Corvette. Oh, and Nuclear Shark saying, if I'm not mistaken, California and Oregon collect road gas taxes from EV owners by adding to their yearly taxes. I have no idea. How would you keep up with that? Red Dog, again, thank you for very much. He said, okay, this is for the Rube Goldberg reference. Well, it's true. I mean, look, if there's a video, if I'm scrolling through or whatever, and there's a Rube Goldberg device or dominoes, the dominoes falling, believe me, I will stop what I'm doing to watch that thing. I am fascinated by that because I know how much work, hours upon hours upon hours of trial and error to get that to work. I'm going to watch it. And so to me, that's what it feels like. It's like, yeah, there's efficient ways to do things, but there's cool ways to do things. There's something that has flash, style, substance, something that's got a grip to it. That's what it does for me. And I can tell you how both power plants work. But I'm not fascinated by an electric motor. I'm fascinated by engines. The engine part of the engine is what I'm fascinated by, not the fact that it's a contraption that aids in the conveyance of people and goods and whatever. It is. I get all of that, but I'm more interested in the cool stuff that's going on in general. Let's see. Oh. Doug saying, Howie. Maybe Dad's not a fan of Joe Biden. If they can't, Chuck saying, if they can't heat with a gas guzzler tax, they'll get it from you in other ways. Oh, of course they will. Nuclear Shark saying, yes, sir. Red Dog saying, hit that like. Yeah, hit that like button, guys. Stuart saying, that's true. Why isn't there an EV ambulance or fire truck? Chuck saying, EVs are our future. This is coming from a guy who got caught with his. Ooh, didn't know about that. Chuck saying it's all in pictures. Ugh. Let's see. Oh, I'm having My feed's kind of acting goofy. Time out, guys. Let's see something here. What happened? Oh, Nuclear Shark saying yes. Oh, here we go. Red Dog saying hit the like. Chuck's there's your EVs are our future. There we go. Stuart's saying right. No one wants to look at centerfolds of battery packs for sure. Chuck saying creepy Joe Snowflake King. Oh, Sovereign saying EVs are kind of a one-trick pony. The problem with the EV is that it's a one-trick pony for a lot of folks that are not really qualified to be behind the wheel of the vehicle that can perform the trick that pony is performing. I don't know what the statistic is on plaids, but it's not a non-zero number with guys that are getting into trouble with these things because they accelerate at the rate that they do. Look, I'm one to talk about, well, is it too fast? Is it whatever? But the reality is that these cars are so fast that they can go from not only 0 to jail in 1.9 seconds, but it can get you from 0 to, I've just made a huge mistake in just as many seconds. And it's kind of I don't really want to use the word scary proposition when we're talking about this, but it's a strange existence that you would have to have a car that makes no noise, that hopefully is running. And if you accidentally sneeze or fart the wrong way, hit the accelerator pedal and the thing goes flying 100 feet. You know what I mean? It's like by the time you get a chance to react, something to think about. I don't know. Ardell saying, thanks everybody. This has been a great one. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you hanging out. Sovereign's checking in with somebody. X is in saying, what up, Professor B? Got the flex. I like it. Thank you again, Red Dog. I appreciate it, buddy. Oh, he's saying me too. Yeah, when I say I will stop what I'm doing just to watch that. It doesn't even have to be a complicated one. I like all of it. Nuclear Shark saying they figure out who has an EV in your. Oh, is your EV rebate? Oh, this is about the taxes. Get a rebate for a new EV from the feds. The state government takes it back from your yearly taxes in the installment plan to make up for your loss of gas. That's crazy. Marco is saying C7 Z06 or Hellcat. Man, two completely different cars, buddy. If you want a manual transmission, go with the C7 Z06. If you're looking for an automatic car, go with the Hellcat. And that is 100% how I would run that. The C7 Z06 is, as far as manual transmissions go, as far as cars with manual transmissions, one of my all-time favorite cars to drive. The Hellcat would be my all-time favorite with an automatic. Oh, Chuck's saying that dealerships around him in Vermont are selling EVs fast. That's crazy. It's saying there's a waiting list for 6 months in some dealerships. That is crazy. Nuclear saying there's a waiting list for everything right now. That is true. Gary saying, Marco, depends on what all you want to do with the car, roll racing and all. Oh, go the C7. Yeah, it really does depend on what you want to do. But if you're looking for a specific driving experience, man, I can tell you that I really do. I'm going to say that I miss driving a manual transmission, even though I've got one literally sitting right on the other side of this wall. Probably should be re-geared. The 373 gear is a little bit too much for that Mustang, but one of my favorite cars to drive was Alex Pite's C7 Z06. I absolutely loved that car. And it, even when it was stock, I think it was stock with a pulley, when the car was making, I don't know, 590 or 600 to the wheel, it was just a really, really, really fun car. Hemi Dad, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying, keep the faith, my Mopar brother. Enjoying the chat tonight. I think Dodge is really missing the boat with all the EV BS. I hope they fall on their face. Man, I tell you what, I would like to have seen them do this a little bit differently. I'm not wanting to bash Mopar for the product that they come out with. I've got to question their methods, and I've got to question the effort that Dodge is putting into this when we could be talking about, or could have been talking about, the hybrids that they may be coming out with. Let's talk more about that Hurricane Inline 6. Anybody want to talk about that new platform yet? See, these are things that would get me excited. These are things that would get me worked up and really thinking about, okay, well, this is the next project car. This is the next iteration of the Challenger, the Charger, the whatever name they come up with the next car, right? Tomahawk, Trackhawk, this Hawk, that Hawk, whatever. That would get me excited. I'd be going, oh, I can't wait, guys. Here we go again. But the problem is, we're not hearing that. We're not seeing that. And to be quite honest with you, we can only get as excited as they are. They being Dodge, marketing, Tim, everybody over there. We can only be that excited. And the problem is we're just not seeing any of that. And we're starting again to see a lot of that pullback and take back from when it was, we're going to release this big time, nasty, take over the world type of EV. And I'm going, hey man, look, I'm not into EVs, but let's see what this bad boy is all about. All right, Hot Rod, what you got? Wait, what do you mean you're going to be talking about hybrids? What? Like, that's what we're going to be hearing about at Roadkill Nights on the 15th, 16th, and potentially the 17th, or hybrids? Nah, I'm not really feeling that. So, bad marketing, bad way to release the product into the world, and really questionable, like cringy, doing that at what is in essence a celebration of the internal combustion engine at the Woodward Dream Cruise. You guys heard me talk about that, but fact of the matter is that event will showcase a whole lot of folks that have spent a whole lot of time, effort, money, blood, sweat, tears, and etc. on old school internal combustion cars. And to come out and say, well, the EV is so much better than what you have spent all your time, money, effort, and poured love and adoration into, a little bit of a slap in the face, wouldn't you say? I mean, if you just got through spending a small fortune, not only in money, but in time, and all that time with your family, say it's a father and son, mother and daughter, uncle and nephew, uncle and niece, aunt, whatever, project, like really that didn't mean anything. Like that's all part of the internal combustion experience, the mechanical experience. Kind of hard to make that argument or make that play when it's like, okay, put the red wire on this terminal, the black wire on that terminal. Yeah, you do that internal combustion engines too. It's like the last thing you do to the car before you start it up, and it makes all the cool noise. It's called hooking up the battery. So I don't know. You get where I'm going with this, though, I think. And that is that the slap in the face will not be unnoticed when this announcement comes from Dodge. And I'm really hoping that something cool is shown, and there's, again, the hybrid technology. This is what we're coming out with. It's going to be a 392. It's going to have, I use the 150 horsepower, 200 foot-pounds of torque, because that's kind of a walking around estimate for the integrated hybrid technology when it's built into the transmission. But anyway, it's going to have all this extra whatever. It's going to do this, and man, this is going to be amazing. We've got to do that, but wait till the EV, whatever. You're not hearing any of that. There's no hype, and none of that was discussed when we were talking about this all-wheel drive electric Fratson wearing, which is that little triangle thing, the emblem. It's called a Fratson. That Fratson wearing contraption that was going to be so good, but that was the EV. Remember that you get a charger with your charger. Anyway, again, thank you, Himmy Dad. I appreciate that, buddy. Nuclear Shark saying, order a new Camaro, wait 10 months before you get it. You might not ever get it now. Oh, Sovereign's hanging out with Marco about the two different cars. Yeah, it really are. They are two completely different cars. Chuck's at Nuclear, very true. Gary's saying, I just got a C6 or C7 Z06 for rental. Love that car. Really nice car. Sly saying, I'm in Central Time 2 in Nebraska. Now time for bed. I understand that completely. Oh, Marco's saying that he had a C7 with headers and an X-pipe, loved it, but he wanted a little bit more comfy car. Completely understand that. Summer saying, Marco, that would be the Hellcat for sure. Summer saying they're plush and comfy, offer performance too. They do that for sure. Himmy Dad saying, when Kaniska said we were doing it for performance or whatever, that was a total BS jump the shark moment. Very true. I would have to agree with that. Well, I'll tell you what will truly be the jump the shark is if they I'll put it like this. So they're fantailing the EV for the last day. What will truly be a jump the shark is if they do more or less a preemptive soft announcement about hybrid technology with no mention of a change in platform or internal combustion engine platform. That'll be the weird one. J Masters in saying, would I be hope all is well? It is. It never fails. I'm always at work when the chat goes live, making some of that Gatorade you love. Nice. I like it. In fact, I've got to get some more. I need to go by the store and Gatorade up. They have not had my purple Powerade, so I've been rocking the green lately for the Gatorades. Loving it. Jimmy Dad's saying total slap in the face for sure. Jim Master, are you saying you work at Gatorade? I consume a lot of your product. If not, I'll drink some with you. Or if you do, I will. Either way. Jimmy Dad's saying total slap in the face. Sovereign saying, oh, he's hanging out with Marco. Just know Hellcats are heavy. They will not turn like a vet. No, they don't. Living in the highways for cruising, very rare you'll have it in track setting. The funny thing is the Hellcat actually handles pretty good. It's just that there's a difference between the actual physical act of the car handling well, because it is really well planted. The problem with the Hellcat is that you don't really get the steering wheel feel. You don't get the road feel in the Hellcat that you do in the Vet. You don't get the turn-in that you do with the Vet, and the Vet is lighter, so it reacts a little bit more quickly. It's hard to explain unless you've driven both cars, but I can tell you that there is a marketable difference in driving experience, and that's why the Vet does so well with the manual transmission. Summer saying, at Marco saying, Hellcats are performance cruisers. Yes, they are. Chuck saying, thanks for responding to my emails today. Yeah, time for me to go. Catch you on the next show. Absolutely, man. Good hanging out. Good to chat with you earlier. Car looks amazing, by the way. Did a good job. I can tell you put a lot of work into that bad boy. Summer saying, later, Chuck. Chuck saying, peace. Someone's saying glacial freeze. That's a good one. J Master saying, yes, sir. I make 20 ounce. Nice. No kidding. J Master saying if it has an RV in the bottle code, there's a good chance I made it. Do I have any? I'm taking notes. Hang on. Because I'm going to start looking for it, and I will only, if I find two different bottle codes, I will only get the one that J Master is buying. So RV in the bottle code. That is so cool. That's awesome. Dad's saying red Gatorade is clearly the best. Oh, J Master saying it stands for River Valley here in Virginia. Very cool. Well, hell, Gatorade for the win. I love it. Oh, Matt A saying, new to your channel. Awesome. Just picked up a 2010 SRT8 with 9,000 miles. Very cool acquisition. I like that. Good car. So I'll give you the same advice I give everybody that picks up a low mileage car. There's a lot of them out there. Belts, hoses, go through the entire car, look for leaks, look for anything funky going on. But right off the bat, belts, hoses, oil change. And then you want to do a kind of a longish cruise. Make sure you get the thing up to operating temperature. Check for any leaks at that point. Brakes, brake hoses, anything made out of rubber. Check all that stuff out. Make sure everything's up and to scratch. What happens is when cars aren't driven for any real length. Oh, flush the radiator. If not the first, the second thing that you do after the oil change. What happens is a lot of guys think, oh, the car doesn't have any miles on it. That's great. It's actually, you have to exercise them. If you don't, you run into problems that are just degradation related. So anyway, check all that stuff out, do it now, and then you'll know everything is good to go. Because that stuff does fail, and it can happen to fail pretty quickly if you don't swap out those parts on the older cars. It's time-based. It's not mileage-based. It's something that I'm running into with Foxy right now. I'm going to have to go through and replace every belt, every hose, whatever I can find in that car because it sat for so long and, those parts go bad. So, but yeah, you'll really enjoy that car a lot. Jimmy Dad's going, we go through some Gatorade in this house. I like it. So I'm saying, Mad, welcome to the channel. Absolutely. Jimmy Dad and Sovereign are liking on the car. 6.1 is nice. 6.1, love me some 6.1, man. J Master is saying 6.1s are sweet. Had the horsepower not to the 426. That's right, at 4.25 horse. Plus, they're a proper. The cool thing about the 6.1, and for whatever reason, a lot of guys give the 6.1 some flack. The problem with that is that they're not understanding that the 6.1 is the Mopar LS, basically. It's a really good engine, and it's a proper 370 cubic inch engine, meaning that it's got a set of heads that they don't overflow. You've got better velocity with those heads. Intake manifold looks the part, really good through mid-range. It's just a good, fun car. I always liked driving the 6.1 cars. The one thing that the 6.1s would do that the 6.4s wouldn't was they had a really good mid-range pull that the 6.4 would have to kind of get past that range, and then it would pick up. And that's where the 6.4 would start putting in work. But yeah, it made more power, but it didn't have the same driving experience. I like the 6.1s a lot. In fact, so one of the car, there's very few cars that ever were at the shop that I wished like I wanted to just take home. Very few. And You might say, well, really? Yeah, trust me. I'm around, when you're around 1,000, 1,200 horsepower cars all day, when most cars are in the 6, 7, 800 horsepower range, you've driven all of them, did all the load testing, did all of that. Most of the cars that I really fell in love with, or the few cars that I really did fall in love with, one of them was a D100 Dodge. It's a silver one. You might see it pop up on Instagram every once in a while. Local here in Houston, I think it was Tony's Customs built it. Anyway, it's been quite a few years, but the thing is, I used to love driving that truck, and it was perfect amount of power for that truck. Plenty fast, plenty of power for that thing. But yeah, I did about, I'd say I did about a third of the tune, did some transmission tuning on that thing as well. So fun truck, really liked it. I was just kind of getting it going, and then Alex took over, and he is way better than me at that stuff, and took it over and got it knocked out. But I did do a lot of the transmission adjustments in that truck, I should say. Mad saying, thank you, I will for sure. Saying Lozy advice. Thank you very much. Yes, I was saying cars don't like to sit long. They got to keep moving. That is true. Matt Ace. Also, it's a manual. Very nice. Barton shifter. I like it. Himmy Dad saying, man, after my own heart. J Master is saying 6.1s have a certain sound to them. My old man had an 09 SRT 6-speed. It had a 666 in the VIN. Very cool. Black with carbon hood stripes. So that's the car that I fell in love with. That is actually the car that got me reinvigorated when it came to Mopars. So the story goes like this. I was living in Dallas at the time, right on Restaurant Row. Had the sweetest play of God, man. It's good to be with Brian. But there was a grocery store next to where I lived, and it was all in the same area. It was all like in the same parking lot that I lived in. And so it was black, carbon stripes, 6-speed car on the deck with CCWs. I mean, it looked the part. I still don't know what rims they were. Anyway, just the look of that thing and the sound of it was amazing. So that's an awesome car. It's the only car George Washington drove. True that. But yeah, that one was that's really the car that, from just a looks point of view, really got me back into Mopars quite a bit. But guys, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. We're coming up on 2 hours, and I got to wake up early in the morning, just like always. But with that, I am going to wrap it up. Want to send a shout out to Stuart, Hemmy Dad, Gary, Red Dog. Thank y'all so much for the contributions. I really do appreciate that a ton. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Hemmy Dad, Red Dog again. Man, Red Dog, appreciate that, buddy. Really do. Gary Payne, my man, Stuart in the house. First out of the box. Man, I really appreciate that, guys. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of you guys. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way worse than you know. You know the rule. If you're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up. Ray, miss, and love you, brother. With that, we're going to wrap it up. We will see y'all on the next one. More truck content, or at least we can talk trucks at some point. I don't know when I'll be able to order it, but once I do, I'll let you know. And if anything happens with the Ram Charger, you'll know that too. We're going to wrap it. Adios, guys.